Well, first, I want to take a second to thank everybody for joining us. And I want to kind of frame our discussion, and then I'll introduce our two panelists. But, COVID has had a major impact on sales and how we reach and interact with customers. I think, though, the fundamental goal that we all have with selling is really to solve customer problems. The problem is that the techniques and the timing have needed to adapt significantly. And so what you've got are sales reps that need to develop remote communication skills, and they really need to plan for every customer interaction using every tool available. And so what we're going to hear from in this thINK Academy are your peers and really how they're dealing with the practical implementation. Now, I have two amazing presenters. And the first is Hunter Johnson. He's the CEO at JPS Graphics. And the second is Michelle Brennan. And she's the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing at the Quantum Group out of Chicago. I want to spend just a second, though, up front, kind of setting the tone for the questions I'll be asking them during the session. One of the big things I tell everybody is, what's changed about the sales process during the pandemic? The answer is a pretty simple one: everything. And when you think about it, what's happened is that most of us are B2B services companies of some type, and we've relied heavily on in-person selling. And that means that navigating sales and client retention during the pandemic has induced fears because we don't really know how to make remote sales. Then we have the added pressure of understanding new customer behaviors and the trying economic realities that they're dealing with. And then, if that wasn't enough, now we need to rely on technology and digital platforms to connect with customers. And we needed to quickly figure out how to effectively market and leverage techniques. And we needed to use tools like social media, Zoom, video. And as challenging as all of that was, what we saw, I think, in this market was that print service providers were incredibly resilient in terms of their approach to this. Now, I think the other thing we've got to look at, though, is it going to go away? And the message inside is there's still untapped opportunity. McKinsey & Company surveyed more than 3,000 B2B decision makers in late 2020, after the pandemic was in full swing. More than 3/4 of the buyers and sellers say that they now prefer digital self-service and remote human engagement versus the face-to-face interactions. And I don't think that sentiment is going to change anytime soon. There's a number of reasons. Safety is one, but self-service and remote interactions have made it pretty easy for buyers to get information, place orders, arrange service, and customers have enjoyed that combination of both speed and convenience. They've saved on travel. Only about 20% of B2B buyers say that they actually hope to return to in-person sales. And these are in sectors that have been traditionally dominated by products like pharma and medical products. I also think you need to think about the benefits for you and your business. First of all, the shift to virtual sales can help you lower your cost per visit. It can help you extend reach. And you'll hear a little bit about that today, because all of a sudden, you're not really limited to that local geographic market. And it can improve sales effectiveness, because I can leverage all of my subject matter experts to make a sales call. In addition, I delight those customers who really want new ways of interacting with you and your organization. Well, the opportunity is significant, so is the pressure. And B2B leaders need to commit to digitizing their go-to-market models even further to derive both a competitive advantage, more business, and more customers and more loyalty than their slower moving peers. Now, over the next few minutes, you're going to hear how your peers have been successful at making this happen. And let me start with Hunter. And Hunter, tell us a little bit about JPS Graphics and what you do there.
Sure, thanks, Barb. So my name's Hunter Johnson. I'm with JPS Graphics. So JPS Graphics, we're a family-owned printing business. My third generation family business. So my grandfather, Bob Johnson Sr., founded it in 1978. My father, Bob Johnson Jr., was the CEO for the last 20 years or so, and then I just stepped into the role last month. We largely service what we call learning organizations. So on the student learning side, that's a lot of curriculum publishers. And then on the professional learning side, it's a lot of continuing education firms, and then corporate training, which a lot of them refer themselves as corporate learning and development organizations now. And what those all have in common is books, is whether it's a student workbook or a training manual. That's kind of the common need in terms of enabling those learning programs. And books is what we do really well. And that said, our capabilities are very flexible. So we do a lot of other types of print as well, worksheets and flashcards and all kinds of other types of digital print, posters. And then a big part of our offering is on the logistics side. So we're based in Dallas, Fort Worth, right smack dab in the middle of the map. So we try to lean into the advantage that gives our customers in terms of storing their product with us, and the transit time that's reduced by shipping from our location.
So if I take a look, Hunter, at your organization, and I want to buy books, kind of take me through what the breadth of the services are that I could get from your organization.
Sure. So, usually the kernel, we call it the kernel, kind of the innermost core is around books. So we have a range of kind of 6 different binding options that we offer, ranging from saddle stitch on, the very economical side, all the way up to case-bound hardcover books. And then in the middle, we've got 2 different flavors of perfect bound books, one that uses PUR and one that uses what we call EcoFlex, which is a proprietary adhesive. It's a lay flat softcover book. And then on the element binding, we've got both coil and wire-o. So usually if books are really the core of what you do, that's going to be a good start. And then it ends up, what are the other digital print needs that you have? More times than not, our customers need some kind of kit. So there's, custom packaging and other types of digital print and assembly, perhaps wide format in terms of posters and signage. That custom packaging, we're increasingly trying to do that in-house for the shorter run lengths. And then, like I mentioned before, the services around the storage of their materials, the web portals to place those fulfillment orders and to monitor inventory and shipping status and things like that.
Okay. Now, talk to everybody a little bit about what your sales organization looks like.
Sure. So before I stepped into the CEO role, I headed up sales. I continue to head up sales today. So we've got 7. So we've got 3 folks that are focused on outside sales. So, hunting new business. They do manage their own accounts as well. And then we have 4 that are inside sales / CSRs, customer success reps, where they're writing up job tickets, not only for their jobs, but for the 3 outside sales reps as well.
Okay. And when you take a look at the sales challenges that your guys have, what are the biggest challenges that you deal with day in and day out?
So I think the biggest thing is, it's right here on the slide, is getting more at bats. We've got a number of very significant large customers. Our 2 biggest customers make up about 1/3 of our revenue. So we're very top heavy in terms of some very big, loyal, long-term customers that are growing. And that's great. We want to ride that organic growth and help those guys in ways that we've done, over the years. But in terms of really getting that growth to really hockey stick and start accelerating, it's all about acquiring new customers. And once we get that at bat, and by at bat I mean that initial discovery call, I have a lot of confidence in terms of the process from there forward. But it's the challenge is how do you take someone from kind of stranger status to opting into, meeting with you on a discovery call.
Okay. Now, one of the things that you talked a lot about was LinkedIn Sales Navigator. We were chatting prior to this.
Mhm.
Could you explain? I mean, everybody's heard of it, but how do you use it when you're working through that sales process, Hunter?
Sure. So LinkedIn Sales Navigator, if you haven't used it before, I think they still do kind of a 1 month trial. I'm a big Sales Navigator geek. I love it. I think it's about $75 a month per user. And what it is if you're in B2B sales, like you were saying, Barb, there from the top, like so many of us are, there's some channels that are noisy and there's some channels that are not. And by noisy, I mean, trying to get someone's attention in their email inbox, at least for me, that's a tough way to go. Is I've got so many emails, there's just a lot there every day versus a channel like LinkedIn. They've got 400 million people on the platform. Chances are the folks you're trying to sell to are on that platform, and then the inbox is just less cluttered than other channels. So I think it's a great channel, LinkedIn as a platform more broadly, and then the Sales Navigator kind of premium account membership just gives you so many different levers in terms of filters to really hone in on who you're trying to target. And that was one of the things we really got really crisp on last year was 2020 was all about, survival mode. How do we just, grab revenue where we can and get through that really tough year? 2021 was really for us was about, okay, let's get back to focused on what our core market is, those learning organizations. And when I mentioned all these different attributes, some of the default ones for us is geography, US. We do want to, service folks across the nation, but international customers, not so much. And then getting into the industries. And I think there's like 138 industries. And a good way to start, we found, was really profiling your current top customers. And in LinkedIn, what are the industries that they're currently associated with? Because they're self-selecting what those industries are, and they might not be self-selecting what you think they are. And if you can get really crisp on what those industries are, then you can do lookalike analysis and really go for other folks in those similar industries.
Okay. Now, I have to tell you, I learned a lot when I talked to you because you talked about using some tools that I personally haven't used, and they were Loom and Vidyard. Could you explain what those are? Because when I listened to you, I thought these are pretty cool.
Sure. So Sales Navigator is an awesome tool for prospecting. Downstream in the process in terms of, one thing we're big believers in is that the power of video is, it's one thing to have a phone call. It's another to have email interaction, but just the improvement there is in terms of communication with body language and seeing someone on video is just really powerful. So we use Loom. I've kind of flirted with Vidyard. I think it's a very similar tool. Vidyard actually integrates within the LinkedIn Messenger, so that's one added benefit. But really, what they are, they're sales video tools, not necessarily sales video. They're just video tools. And so the screenshot on the left is us, me walking through what we call a lead magnet, which is a training that I put together, kind of what are the top things that learning organizations should be thinking about in 2022 through the supply chain crisis. It's a presentation, but it's got my floating head there in the corner, kind of narrating that presentation. So whether it's some kind of training that you're getting someone to opt into to get them to engage, or whether it's a proposal, we find that these are really powerful tools to kind of elevate, just rather than sending an email, sending a PDF attachment, making something that's a bit more dynamic and letting people, sales is all about know, like, trust. I think sales video really brings that to light.
Okay. Now, clearly the pandemic caused major changes in the interaction with clients. And before the pandemic, we were all in the face-to-face mode. How has the migration to a virtual relationship really impacted your sales team?
So I think it's actually been really beneficial. I think when I first stepped into the role, and I started getting into, how are we prospecting, how are we interacting with new prospects, things like that. I think there was a mentality in our team that, we're a North Texas kind of regional specific focus, and we try to get out there in front of clients and face-to-face interactions, whether it's at events, whether it's showing up live to customer locations. And when we did that kind of core analysis, what's our core? How are we going to niche down and really specialize? A couple of things stuck out. One was, I think it was 8 of our top 10 customers were nowhere near Texas. Our number one customers in Brooklyn, New York. We've got customers all over the map. So kind of broadening that geographic reach was one thing. And then the other was, I think pre-COVID, trying to get somebody on a Zoom call. Zoom was a bit more, foreign. I don't think it was kind of the household name. It wasn't a verb like it is now. And I think now everyone is very, I do think there's some Zoom fatigue, but I think everyone's very, comfortable with getting on Zoom. It's not like a foreign thing. And kind of similar to the Loom and Vidyard dynamic of video. I think having a face-to-face interaction, even over Zoom, just adds so much. And you can, demo product in terms of our different binding types. We can do a screen share, show them our proven process, show them our portal. I think the dynamic of that virtual selling using tools like Zoom is great in terms of expanding our reach.
Okay. Now, beyond the sales side of it, what else are you doing to do a good job at engaging prospects?
Yeah. So another kind of mentality shift is, we've never really had marketing. We've always had sales, customer service, things like that. But we've always kind of relied on, word of mouth and referrals and things like that. And, one of the previous, ink sessions or think sessions here, I forget who it was. I think Mario maybe mentioned that marketing is the new selling. And that's 1,000% how we think about things is, kind of building off some of the themes that I had before in terms of video is, I think, marketing is the new selling. And this took some time to get this, adopted, but is the mentality of, especially in my team, my outside sales folks have been in the industry a long time. So, 40 years on the high end. They have a lot of great intel in their heads. And our mantra, our approach is, how do we give away all those great ideas for free and put things out there in the form of LinkedIn posts and videos and things like that on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and give away all those good ideas. And the idea is, we don't have just a finite set of these ideas. That's going to be our business. We're always coming up with new innovative solutions, and we want to position ourselves as thought leaders, put out that content, and do more things like that. And those are new muscles. But I think that's, you talk about virtual selling and things like Zoom, and then you talk about social selling. To me, social selling is the new selling, and marketing is the new selling. All those things to me are saying the same thing, just in different ways.
Now, you also told me that you haven't really done a lot of CRM, but yet it sounds to me like you've got pretty good sales processes in place. Could you talk a little bit about where you see your sales process going? Sure.
So, we've been very kind of service centric in our tools and our processes historically. So, our job ticket database and how that flows into production. That's pretty well ironed out, but kind of upstream of that in terms of, prospecting and discovery calls and things like that, there wasn't a whole lot of capture there. We started off in kind of a scrappy way using Google, Google Sheets, Google spreadsheets to capture some of those. And that's worked so far. I think the next level for us is to put in eventually a proper, CRM, whether it's HubSpot or Salesforce or, there's a number of different tools that are out there. But to just get, we've got the metrics today, but just to remove some of the friction and remove some of the manual nature of how we're doing that today. So I think, as we continue to beef up our pipeline, that's probably a next step for us.
But you do a pretty good job at tracking performance, right?
We do. We do try to, yeah, for sure. So yeah, we've got kind of our whole funnel broken down from, how many connection requests are we sending each week by rep on LinkedIn? What's our connection request acceptance rate? How many people are opting into our lead magnets? How many of those are translating into discovery calls? How many discovery calls are translating into proposals, into
Gotcha.
closed won sales? So the whole funnel, yeah.
Okay, now you have to tell everybody about the BHAG though.
So yeah, so BHAG, so BHAG. If you're familiar with the book Good to Great, that's where I first came across the concept. So we had two BHAGs last year. One was 2021. We started off kind of slow, and it was really about May where our learning business really started picking up in the back to school. So we've put out a BHAG of our first $1 million sales month, which we had never had $1 million in sales before. We've always, we're kind of a smaller family-owned business. So early August, put that BHAG out there and thinking it would be, 14, 15 months or so until we hit it. And, we'd get that lift every month, whatever it was. 20 days later, boom, we hit it. Oh, and then the big carrot was we would give $1,000 bonus to everybody in the company, from our, receptionist to our production manager, everybody. So that was our first BHAG. And then once we hit that, we kind of set our sights towards, okay, the rest of the balance of 2021, what's the next BHAG? And we set a BHAG of, let's have our best sales month, our sales year ever, which at the time felt pretty audacious, just because we were coming off such a rough 2020, and it would require 30% year-over-year growth. And we when we closed the books on December, we realized that pretty much right on the nail. We hit 29.6%. Growth 2021. I'm going to round up and give us credit for 30% growth, but that was the second BHAG that we hit last year.
Great. Now, one last question, and I'm going to turn over to Michelle. So, given all you've been through, what recommendations would you make to the other guys that are responsible for selling that are on the call?
Yeah, I think, like you said, what's different about, selling in today's environment, everything. I think there's a huge opportunity. One of the things I was most excited about in stepping into this role is that, print's not new. Print's been around a long time. And I think there's a lot of, traditional approaches because it's a very traditional industry. But I think if you can do things differently, especially on the sales side of the house, there's a huge opportunity to differentiate yourself. So whether it's, putting out content or sales videos or, using more sophisticated prospecting tools, those are all new muscles, and that requires change, and change can be uncomfortable. But I think, the ability to differentiate in this industry, there's a huge opportunity there. And I think the people that really lean in and are bold in terms of adopting some of those new approaches there's going to be a lot of benefit there.
Okay. Well, Hunter, thank you. And again, at the end of the webinar, we'll take a bunch of questions. If anybody's got something right now, feel free to pipe up because we're all online, okay? Now I'm going to turn over to Michelle. And Michelle works for a very large commercial printer out of Chicago called Quantum. And Michelle, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Quantum?
Sure. So Quantum, welcome everyone that's on the call today, and thank you. Quantum Group is a 30-year young company. We're in printing. We call ourselves a data-driven company, communications company. We started out as a boutique printer, and I would say in the last 5 or 6 years, we've moved much closer to the direct mail side of the business. And a lot of that came together through the types of equipment that we began purchasing, and just sort of trying to round out our offering to some of our existing customers.
So from a 50,000 foot view, what services do customers buy from you?
Customer service. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
But not kidding. They do buy a lot of services they do rely on our customer services. To be honest, the more we can add to a sheet of paper by way of QR codes, introducing AI, artificial intelligence, or we have a system here, a platform here called Engage. Those are more of our offerings, additional offerings, so that our customer isn't just looking at the cost of ink on paper, but what other value do you have that you can help us out with?
Okay. Now, talk a little bit, Michelle, about your sales force.
Oh, well, so you mean our quota crushers? That's what I call them.
Oh, good.
Unbelievably amazing. I have a fantastic sales team that I consider family. I mean, we are very much engaged. I am a firm believer of the team sell approach, having more ears and eyes, listening to a customer, the better. I don't go in with 20 of our folks, but I make sure that I have everyone represented there that has all the services I just described that head those departments up. They are a seasoned team, and for that, I'm talking 20 plus years in the business. So they've come out of that offset world and have moved into the digital world. And then now we have inkjet as well. So we rely a lot on keeping them educated as best as possible as to where we're looking at vision wise. And so that their approach in selling is actually targeting the type of work we're looking to bring into the company.
Now, Michelle, you organize them vertically. Could you talk a little bit about the vertical alignment that you have in place and the value of doing that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been in this business a long time. I always use the saying, if I was a lizard, I'd be a belt by now. But the thought process at one time was, you find a salesperson in that geographical area and let them do the farming out there. But when you're coming into a business that already exists and you have a seasoned sales force, seasoned skill sets throughout the entire company, really, I thought it was best to then align them with the verticals that we were interested in going after. So I have them listed here as pharma, health and wellness, financial, banking, e-retail, and senior lifestyle. What I thought would benefit our own customers is that we would be providing them with a pod, a group of people, not just a salesperson, but someone who works with them, and also project managers and planners that really understand that vertical very well. So that one-time visit, if you're lucky enough to get in front of someone, or if you're in front of them in Zoom, there's a lot of valuable questions that are being asked. They're well educated in that vertical, and it's been extremely successful for us.
Good. Now, talk a little bit about what you did relative to customer interaction and engagement during the pandemic and where it is today.
Yeah. So I'm all about go overboard and have the courage and creativity to do something that is so vastly different than what our industry has done. So what we did is, we're here, as I said earlier, in Chicago, and we had Zoom meetings with our clients. Now we're fortunate, we started doing those well before the pandemic happened. So it was a nice move into, but other than just getting on a Zoom meeting, and what ends up happening is you get channel fatigue or channel fog, whatever the marketing speak is today, we would engage them for lunch. So we ordered lunch from a website called Chicago Taste. We also used Panera and Chick-fil-A and some of those other things and we had lunch with our customers. So there wasn't a relationship beyond the business that started forming. We knew what was happening in those geographical area, whether or not they had their kids at home for school, weddings. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And so the bond that we have now is very, very tight. And I think it was a good move. It was an idea of one of our salespeople, and it's still going on. It's fantastic.
Good. And how are your customers responding to the virtual relationship? Is that working pretty well for you?
Yeah, I think it is. Listen, we're salespeople and we love being face to face. There's nothing like that. I think we're getting better at doing these Zoom meetings or team meetings. But I think because we've added this lunch thing in there and flowers, I think it's just, we're more engaged now than ever.
Now, you've got a pretty aggressive marketing department that works for you. Could you talk about what kinds of marketing initiatives you have relative to engaging customers and doing reach?
So, yeah, I have a pretty good marketing team and a great director of marketing. And so for us, we also went into LinkedIn, like Hunter described. We use that. Email, not so much. We do it, but email, if you're referring to email blasts. But we did, we engaged ourselves with a number of our own campaigns, electronic campaigns specifically. And I would say that altogether probably increased our sales, I don't know, about 15%.
Okay. And you do a great job at content development too, because I get one of your monthly magazines.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about some of the content that you leave with customers.
Yeah, so you're going to see a change in that a little bit. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and then I'm going to tell you what we're
okay.
potentially doing. And so yes, we have a magazine called Navigator, and we get our CEO to write a story at the beginning of the page, and we talk about all the things that are happening in all the verticals.
Yeah.
So in other words, this magazine is going out to our entire customer base and then some. Some of them select a digital format versus a printed format. And it helps us when it's a digital format, of course, because we know what pages they stepped into and stayed on. And there was some interest with that. In another couple of months, what we've decided is everything in our business from several years now has been about personalization. So we're going to take those verticals that we created 4+ years ago, and we're going to design a magazine that's specific to that group. So if it's pharma, they're going to get pharma case studies, pharma stories. Our CEO will speak to that particular group, and so on, health and wellness. And in addition to that, we'll be able to engage some of our existing customers to actually write articles within the magazine themselves, marketers on their challenges as well. So it's going to be more focused going forward.
Nice.
Practicing what we preach, right?
You got it. Now, you do a fair amount of work also relative to prospecting. And you use some tools that I don't think everybody is familiar with. Talk a little bit about CompetiScan. How do you use that, and what's been the benefit of it to Quantum?
Well, CompetiScan really is a lead generation tool for us.
Okay.
For many of us who are looking to hire, have been looking to hire for well over a year, and it became difficult to try to find somebody that was interested in coming out of retirement or resigning or whatever it is for this lead generation group that I had planned for. So CompetiScan provides us, it's a tool where every single salesperson gets it. They can sign up and pick whatever vertical that they're in, and see what they do is they get an email and they see what their customers' competition is doing. And when you open up the site, it basically tells you what they did, whether it was a postcard or a mailer, and what the quantity was and where they targeted it.
Okay.
And so it gives them a little more in-depth information, so that if they were trying to go after one of those other, since we verticalize, as I said, in sales with
Mhm.
our salespeople, it lets them have a bigger discussion on the phone or on an email. to that
So
potential
just an aside, it's basically what you're saying is, and I don't know if there's people in the audience that are familiar with it, but North American Publishing Company had something that was called Who's Mailing What.
Yes,
This is a verticalization of who's mailing what, basically.
right.
Is that a good way of putting it?
It is. I'm connected to Who's Mailing What as well. It's
Okay.
very similar. But
Okay.
it isn't just for the marketing department, it's for every salesperson as well. So they can do their own
Okay.
marketing.
Okay. And then the next thing is, and you've talked about this a little bit, but how do you use HubSpot then as your CRM?
Yeah, so we're getting better at that. We haven't had HubSpot for that long, but we're getting better with how we're using it. And essentially, I think we're just about at the point where it's been happening through our director of marketing. He gets the information, but now we're going to pass it along to the salespeople when we do any of our external marketing. They will receive information about who actually opened up the Navigator, for instance, the magazine,
Okay.
and periods of time that they were on it, and any questions they might have asked. But as far as how we're using it now is really just also for prospecting.
Okay. So for instance, if somebody sent an email or made a comment on a LinkedIn post that you made, you capture that,
Yes.
feed it through HubSpot into the appropriate sales rep.
Yep. And it also will go to our director of marketing and to myself.
Okay.
So as that team approach still is in place, in case someone's on vacation or someone just didn't see it, or we're just questioning it. So so we know that we're speaking to that particular person. We get a lot of leads from HubSpot. Folks go on it and ask us to quote work, or can you please give us a call, and so on. So it's
Okay. And then kind of wrap up, Michelle, with some of the recommendations that you might have for peers relative to going forward as we look at 2022 and beyond.
Well, I say education, education, education.
Yeah.
It's just like our cell phones. The minute you buy it, they're out of date like another month later. I think that salespeople in general, they have a need to be out and about, and they need to go into belong to different organizations. Allow them that freedom to go out and navigate the world out there, because just about anyone you touch, anywhere any of us go, it is real and it's out there, and there's opportunities. So that's I suggest education to all your sales board, because eventually if you don't do it, then they become not as useful to the organization. And I think they want to be. It's just trying to keep them aware of what the marketing speak is out there. I think today the word immersive a lot, and I say immersive education. That's what they need.
Okay. Well, great. So I think, and I'm just going to share this with you, I think that what you heard from everybody is that the digital first is going to continue, and it will be, even though we're dealing with a pandemic, kind of a new normal. That there are benefits to virtual selling, speed of the sale, cost of sales, and in a lot of instances, it's customer preference. And then over time, there's going to be more face-to-face interactions. Now, if that is a bit of backdrop, I would also tell you, you need to invest in the tools for prospecting and video interactions, target effectively, make sure that you've developed those crisp, concise sales messages, develop video skills so that you're doing a great job at it, and make sure that you keep marketing and quality content sharing as part of your strategy. So with that as a backdrop, I'm going to open it, and we've got the lines open. Would anybody like to ask anyone a question, and just throw it out there, guys?
Hi,
Don't be bashful.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you need premium LinkedIn to use Sales Navigator?
I'm going to let Michelle and Hunter respond to that. I know the answer, but go ahead, Hunter.
Yeah, so there is LinkedIn Premium, and then there is LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and then I think there's a recruiting one as well. So Sales Navigator is you don't need Premium to have Sales Navigator. Those are like alternatives. You would have like we just have LinkedIn Sales Navigator. We don't have Premium.
Okay.
Those are just kind of different flavors of paid memberships.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Are you all saying that, this is Randy DeMarco from Pride. Are you all saying that email services or emails sent out is not a real good way of attracting potential clients?
Not enough.
Yeah. You know what it is? And I'm going to make a quick comment, Randy, on that one. I think there's a lot of email fatigue. And what you're seeing is people go through those. And unless they feel that they're inordinately relevant to them, you go the delete, 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 delete. And so
Yeah,
what you need to do is make sure that when you do something, that it's at least differentiated when it lands in their email box. And I'll let Hunter and Michelle. Hunter, any comments on that?
Yeah, I don't know that I have hard data. That's just kind of a belief I have, is just from my own personal experience. If you want to get me on a call, my email inbox is flooded. It's just, you're going to be in a very crowded place. And I think in terms of your outreach, you want to be somewhere where you can stand apart and get someone's attention. I think there's, I don't think it's dead, but I think there's just better channels where you can stand apart.
Well, I actually Googled emails. You can Google emails, and they'll tell you in your title line what to put that will attract a person's attention to get them to open up your email. That's helped me a little bit, but nowadays people don't answer the phone. They won't answer the phone for some reason. People are getting younger, so they're using the younger tools, which is not answering the phone. They don't want you to come by and see them to do cold calls, so they're not answering the door, because the people I deal with, which is mostly the state of Florida, have buttons on their doors where you have to push it, and you have to make sure that you are meeting somebody or they won't let you in. It's probably COVID. So those things have been a challenge to get people to respond to what you're trying to offer them. That's why I asked that question.
Let me ask you, because Randy's raising a good point. Michelle, if you're trying to get a new client, how do you get that initial call? Do you invite them to lunch?
No, I have done that, but and sometimes they take us up on it. But I think I'm just going to wheel it back a little bit. An email, it doesn't work. I think you have to speak their same language. I think printers in general are not very good marketers. And you got to look at what you're doing for your own customers. If I have informed delivery and campaign tracking that I offer to the customer, do your own. You need to develop your own campaign so that you're speaking to them in print, but then you also have that campaign tracking aspect to it, or QR code, whatever it is. Do both. I've done both, and then you know that they've received, the receiver has received your marketing piece. And then in turn, it's on, you get the Google ads and Facebook ads, the same piece. I don't know if you understand how these programs or these platforms work, but you're reaching out in both print and two electronic formats. Those are the ones that you're trying to reach. Those people, that's the way they talk.
Okay, so you're speaking of the items that Hunter mentioned as far as reaching out to your clients.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just one other comment. With everybody working from home, and this happens to be one of Canon's customers. I did some work with DS Graphics, and DS Graphics their challenge was getting people's addresses, right? And so what they did is they did some interesting ad specialty kinds of products, and they'd sit down and because they didn't have home addresses to send direct mail to, they had some promos that they put either via email or on their website. One of them was a coffee cup that it linked with your phone, so that when the coffee started to cool down, it was an app, it would warm up your coffee.
Yeah.
And there were some really neat things. And so what they did is they used those gimmicky ad specialties to get people to provide home addresses, so they can also get their direct mail for those B2B clients that weren't working in the office to their house. Because the number of things that was sitting in, mailroom someplace that never got delivered was enormous.
Yes.
So there were some interesting things that people have done also to get those home addresses.
All of these folks on the phone have probably recently got an email from me asking for your preferred mailing address.
Yes.
And I was really surprised. I felt like I had something valuable that I wanted to mail, which is the Think Academy booklet. But in fact, the response rate was tremendous. I mean, everyone, replied, and I told them what I was sending. So even sometimes just offering up, hey, I'd like your email address, and here's what your preferred address, and here's what I'm mailing you. That was quite successful.
Yeah, I think with so many people working from home, I think direct mail is to me a traditional channel, but I think the big difference there is it an office address or is it a home location? And I think, business mail to home addresses, and the trick there is acquiring those addresses. But I think that's a big opportunity, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments?
I wanted to comment on Randy's question about, how to get a hold of people. I usually, of course, I need sales now, like everyone. However, I'm doing the drip method. I'm taking my top 10 people that I want to go after, and I'm, engaging with them and trying to give them content that's worthwhile. Even if they're going to a trade show, I'll do 10 tips to make your trade show better, or, 10 mistakes marketing people make, whatever. It can be anything, but it has to be relevant to them. And you have to do your research. You have to do deep research on each client. It's not like people pick up the phone. There's no receptionist. There's no, nobody's going to give out a name. Even people working from home. I've asked friends that have been working from home if they know the marketing person at their company, and they said, we don't have access to that anymore. So, if they're not on LinkedIn, I have a client that's a very large client, and they're not on LinkedIn at all. They're a technical writer.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Well, I've had luck, but with mailing samples that we've produced, finding out what the customer is doing the research, if they do booklets, brochures, maps, what have you, and then finding something that we've done equal to what they do, sending it with a letter and letting them know that way. It's less expensive because you're already printed the material. You just got to do the research to find out what type of work they do in order to sell it to them or provide it to them. But then once again, you have to have them open it. Then you have to follow up and find out if they got it. And you have to hope they answer the phone or answer email.
Which is why I was saying QR code on it, Randy. And put a QR code on it and develop a landing page. Someone in-house develop a landing page that they have to go to, and you've got their address right then and there.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And for that, have something there like a $5 New England people, it's Dunkin' Donuts, everywhere else it's Starbucks, I guess, or some kind of something for that.
Sorry about that, guys. That was off.
So I just, that's what I'm trying to say is you got to start looking at what your customers are asking you for. Once you do it, you become the case study, and then you can sell it to your customer.
Yeah.
Even
Other
a testimonial is
Other
helpful.
questions or comments? If not, we'll wrap it up. Well, guys, I'd like to thank everybody for their time and attention. And Cindy, any last comments from you?
No, I think it was a great class, and thank you so much to Barb, you and Michelle and Hunter for for having this class for us. So thank you all. And thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great rest
Thank
of
you
the
all.
day,
Great day.
everybody.
Bye-bye.